live. Welcome again to another edition of
The
Sound
Effect.
Effect. I'm Todd T. Riley.
I'm Scott Johnston.
And I'm Dee Johnson.
And tonight we have part 2 of Rob DeLuca. My man Rob. Brought him this time. Forgot him last week. So last week we had part 1 with Rob DeLuca. Had a great interview with him a couple of weeks back when he was in town with Sebastian Bach. And this week we've got part 2 of that, so make sure you stick around for that. It's coming up near the end of the show. And we've got some other stuff that's going to be coming your way as well. We do have a show poll out there for you. Make sure that you go and vote on that. It's on our Facebook page. And that is, what is the best psychedelic band, Pink Floyd or
Grateful Dead?
The Grateful Dead. So voting's going on that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. And we're also got some music news for you and entertainment news. And every once in a while, we're going to throw in some other news that's not music and entertainment related. And it's just important stuff that's happening in the world. And you'll hear that. And we got a little bit of that for you today. And in the studio with us, we have the members of Jericho Siren. Say hi, guys.
Yeah, there you
Nice
are.
guys. Nice to have you in the studio.
How y'all doing?
Thanks for being here tonight, guys. We really appreciate you showing up. And last minute thing.
And we have a full house, which is
We
awesome.
definitely have a full house going on tonight for sure, and kind of last minute thing with the setup and the microphone situation. So if it's not perfect, it's a work in progress. The whole show is, and we thank you for tuning in and checking us out. And let's get this ball rolling with some music news. So to kick off the news for today, I just want to say a very happy birthday to my man Ozzy Osbourne from yesterday.
Yep.
Yesterday was Ozzy's birthday, and this picture I had taken with me and him several years ago. Actually, this was the very first opportunity I had of meeting a superstar musician when I first started working in radio several years ago at 98 Rock.
That's
and,
an awesome picture.
Yeah, it's pretty
Your
cool.
baby face.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. It's probably good
how-
26 years ago. So.
How did that come about? I mean, what happened?
Choking him.
Well, I had my
How
arm
is he?
around Ozzy and stuff. We were just sitting there talking, and I'm getting ready to take a picture. And next thing I know, he just grabs me around the throat, and I was just like, "Yeah!" That's a pretty cool thing. What was really ironic about it, though, is Brian Medlin from 98 Rock gave me the tickets. He had gotten tickets from another sponsor that he had, another rep, and he had better seats from them. So he's like, "Here, man, you can have these tickets." And what he didn't know was that I also was going to get passes to meet Ozzy. He's like, "I would have never gave you those if that was a chance." So ironically, I got to meet Ozzy and he didn't. The funny thing is, Medlin is now the guy in charge of programming Ozzy's Boneyard on satellite radio. So.
No, that's
Oh,
pretty
that's
cool.
cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny and ironic, but that was pretty cool. So happy birthday to Ozzy. Was 70
Absolutely.
years old. Can you believe that?
70
He's
years
70?
old. I mean,
Still
No
out there
way.
doing it, man.
You know,
Still out there
Did he have
doing
any plastic surgery?
Who knows? I mean, you look at somebody like that. The first thing I'm thinking is, am I going to live to 70? And I'm thinking, well, if Ozzy lives till 70, I'm probably going to live till at least 90 or 100.
Right?
I don't know. I mean, I've done a little damage on my body, but I haven't snorted any ants or anything like that from
Yeah, right.
what I remember anyway.
Jeez.
Lord have
Those
mercy.
guys are pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
crazy. So that's cool, man.
Godfather of rock and roll, Ozzy Osbourne, man, with Black Sabbath. And he's also on his so-called No More Tours Tour 2. I went to the first time he did that, but...
They're
he
always
kept
retiring.
going, man, yeah.
I wish I could keep doing no more tours. I mean, it was just one more, and hey, we did great. Let's do another one, shall we? Just one more. This is the
They
last
probably
one,
need
though.
extra money, so they're like, okay, let's do another one. I got to
don't
go on
know if he
vacation
needs
in
extra
Italy.
I don't know if he
Yeah,
needs
let me
extra
ask you
money,
guys. I
but-
mean, as musicians, if you guys were 70 years old, would you still be doing it?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's in your
I mean,
blood.
Yeah, it's in your blood, man. I
Absolutely.
mean, I'll never stop playing,
There's a
so.
certain thing for balance. I mean, you can hit it harder. I've seen sometimes, but
if you're a musician, you're always a musician.
Yeah. I mean, shoot,
Absolutely.
the Rolling Stones are still killing it. They're doing a whole new tour.
I was gonna
just
bring up
coming
Keith Richards. Ozzy's almost catching up to Keith. That's
Yeah.
And see, that's
Those
another
guys
thing.
partied
is-
hard, man.
Yeah, I mean, so how if they're living this long? I mean, it makes me wonder. All these other guys that died sooner. I mean, it had to have been natural causes. It can't be something that we did because
Yeah.
it wasn't rock and roll. It
Alice
wasn't
Cooper
rock
said
and
that
roll,
about.
no way.
He said something like Mick Jagger's 5 years older than him. So when Mick retires, he's got 5 more years, and then he's done.
yeah,
That's
right,
funny.
right.
I had the pleasure of meeting Alice on his last tour and stuff. Just a really, really great guy. Real super nice, down to earth, and I like it when they're like that, man. Ozzy was that way when I had the chance to meet him, so that was really cool. So, what else we got going on, D?
Well, we have a couple other birthdays. Dennis Wilson, of course, of the Beach Boys. He was born in 1944. And we also have Sean Carter, which is Jay-Z. He was born in 1969. So happy birthday.
Yeah, cool. Happy
Happy
birthday, those
birthday.
guys.
Now, as far as other things going on this week or that's happened. I mean, I know. I believe it was the same week. There was Scott Weiland, wasn't it? Scott Weiland died. That's exactly what ended up happening. It was like a drug overdose, and that was December 3rd,
Right.
2015.
Yeah.
And he was found a cardiac arrest on his tour bus in Bloomington, Minnesota.
Sad.
Which just so happens that's like my stomping ground. I mean, I grew up in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, so I mean, I heard about it like before a lot of the news did. They're like, hey, I was getting ready to go to the show. Next thing I know,
Oh, geez.
there's no show. I mean, this is what ended up happening. So, it's an unfortunate thing. I mean, it's another great guy we lost, and I mean, he was like 48 years old.
Right.
I'm
Too
not going to put
young.
ages on any of us, but I mean, it could happen to any of us, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Yeah, that's for sure, man. Life's too short. Gotta
Well, what
make
was the
most
band?
of
It said the Wildabouts. I'd never heard of that band. It must have been some new
Yeah,
project.
that was a new
Wildabouts.
project he was working on because, obviously he was with Stone Temple Pilots from 86 to 2013 and then Velvet Revolver from 2003 to 2008. I love the Velvet Revolver stuff. That was really
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
that was really
Some
cool.
really good stuff.
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a few other things that have been going on. I mean, let alone today or this week. I mean, what we got. Frank Zappa died. As a matter of fact, I mean that's a big guy. I mean, me being a huge Steve Vai fan. I mean, obviously that's him playing with him was molded him
That
in a
was
lot
in,
of different
That was
ways.
in '93. That's hard to believe it's been that long.
It was, wasn't it? It was.
Wow.
It was that far.
Yeah, from prostate cancer too. It's got to be a painful way to go, I would think.
Wow,
Like,
yeah.
ouch.
What a pain in the ass. No pun intended. But I mean,
Need
So,
those
I mean-
sound effects, man.
yeah, we need that sound effect more. So,
Hold on a second,
as far
I'll
as
do 'em.
anything else going on, I mean,
Also on this day in 1988, Roy Orbison played his final gig, his very last one, when he appeared in Cleveland, Ohio, and 2 days later he died from a heart attack. So
That's crazy.
You should have kept going like Keith.
absolutely.
The minute you stop playing is the minute you're kicking it.
So my question is,
Absolutely.
what's better, Pretty Woman by Roy or Van Halen?
Ooh, boy, that's. You know what? I like them both in their own separate ways. But I mean, being a Van Halen fan, I mean, obviously.
Yeah, Van Halen immortalized that song, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it was a great song, and you can't help it. Roy was a great musician, and traveling Wilburys and everything like that and stuff. Did some really cool stuff for sure. But Van Halen, I actually think that they did an awesome job on making the song very similar to the original, but at the same time making it their own.
Well, you remember the intro to that?
Yeah, I mean,
The intro was pretty cool. You guys remember that? I mean, that was.
I haven't heard it in a long time. So
Yeah,
I
it's
heard the
been a-
reason
it
for
has
that
been a
intro
while.
was
Remember?
because the song
been
was
a
too
while.
I'll hum
short.
it to you, but
But I don't even remember.
The
the
reason
intro.
for I thought it was that song was the reason for that intro was the song was too short. So they tacked that on the beginning. That's something that I had heard years ago. I don't know if that's true.
That'll
I'll have
make
to
it
get
longer.
Eddie in here and ask him.
Yeah.
but let me call him on
Is
the
he
phone.
coming next week?
Yo, Eddie, what's up,
We,
man?
we can come back.
so I don't know. I mean, as far as that goes, I mean that kind of rounds out the week. I mean, don't want anything really else bad to happen. But I mean, there are a couple other things worth mentioning. One of the things I wanted to talk about is, who was it? It was Lamb of God. Wasn't it Lamb of God?
Randy Blythe.
Yeah,
I loved him.
All the details. Todd, you might know a little bit more about this, but as far as him going on, we had a problem with the fan.
Yeah, over in Prague and Czech Republic and stuff, and that was in 2010. In 2012, he got charged for the death of a fan at that concert that was 2 years earlier.
But I thought he played another gig there, and they arrested him once he was in the country.
I mean, it happened in 2010, but
Yeah.
it wasn't until 2012 that they actually charged him for the death. Apparently, he was accused of pushing the fan off of the stage during the concert and stuff. And the fan hit his head when he fell to the concrete floor and died of his injuries and stuff 14 days later.
Wow.
But he was released 5 weeks later, was not held criminally liable for anything, and most of the blame lay with the promoters and the security members.
Absolutely.
So my question, I guess, ask you guys this too. What do you think about a situation like that? Is the band liable for something like that? Would you think the band would be responsible for something when a fan's being an idiot and jumping up
If
on
somebody
stage
takes it upon themselves to
doesn't
get
have
on the
right-
stage when they're not supposed to be on the stage, then that's totally on the fan.
Yeah.
Band shouldn't be held liable for somebody getting on their
They
stage.
should be escorted.
I would agree
at least
entirely. I
properly.
would think it'd be a different story if the band member were to
Lemmy
actually
live
invite
at
them up on
concerts.
the
Lemmy
stage.
Kilmister at Motorhead concerts has told people stay off the stage. It's his stage.
Yeah.
Right.
He's told them don't get on the stage.
I look what happened to
I don't-
Dimebag.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So to think people are still taking it upon themselves to go to the stage uninvited after that, I mean, it's just a liability for everybody. Stage diving, you could land on somebody's head and break their neck or break their wrist.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, not that that happens
I'm
commonly. but
honestly
still,
surprised that doesn't happen more often, to be
And
honest with you.
moshing and all that gets
So-
scary too. Some people are nuts.
It's kind of a risk that the guy assumed by getting on the stage by himself.
Yeah, that's what I would think. If you're going to take it upon yourself to get on that stage, then that should only be on you or security of the venue for not stopping you from
Stopping
getting
you
on
from
the
getting
stage.
on that stage,
But not
exactly.
not the band.
Yeah.
The
But that's
band's
part
there
of-
to perform.
Plus,
That's
it's the
what,
Steel Panther
Well, I
show.
think that guy, but they were saying he
Yeah.
pushed the guy off the
different.
stage, and at that point, that's the difference between stage diving, but whenever you do go to a metal show, I mean, we've all been to countless metal shows. Whenever you get out there, and even if he didn't really mean to, if it was just this guy's over here running around on the stage, and you
Just
give him a little
lightly,
push and he
yeah.
falls off, I mean, I still think that those fans, whenever they get up there, they're taking that upon themselves.
Yeah, you get a
Yeah.
little bit of responsibility, I think, on the band in that point. And if you're laying your hands on the person and stuff like that,
You gotta be responsible, and at the end of the day, that's what rock and roll is all about. Is going out there having fun. I mean, Limp Bizkit
Right.
jumped from the third rail down. I mean, Fred Durst did that at one. I think it was some crazy show, and that's kind of at the spirit of rock and roll. And then if you kill it too much, you hear
Yeah.
fans talk about how shows aren't exciting as they would be. So you have that aspect
Right,
too.
right.
So there has to be a fine
It's a
line.
little-
And
well,
it is a
but
fine line to catch.
I'm
the
not
personal
saying,
responsibility.
but I'm
Right,
not saying that it shouldn't be allowed to happen or that nobody should get on a stage. What I'm saying though is if they get on a stage
yeah.
and then something happens, it's not that
Right,
that-
they weren't supposed to be up there to
yeah,
begin
they're
with.
not supposed. You take that risk on your own of what you're doing.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
there's when you look at videos from Wacken, Germany, from those festivals, they're crowd surfing the whole time. Now they can't get up on that stage, but they're that crowd is going crazy all the time. It's just a party atmosphere. It's what you want at the shows. Still in all, when you're at venues where somebody can get on the stage, hey, and also, as far as Randy Blythe pushing the guy, whatever that situation is, you also got to think too, if the guy's getting too close to him, he doesn't know what the guy's going to do.
Absolutely.
Sure, yeah, especially
Absolutely.
after you have the situation you're talking about with Dimebag, you never know.
Yeah,
In
you
this
just
day
never
and
know,
age,
it's
you just
true.
never know, But that's where security really needs to step up and be on top of it,
And now, like at Rocklahoma Festival, whenever you're standing on that stage, the audience is actually there's actually two gates that they have at least 30 feet away from the stage is the first gate. Then they have a press gate
Right.
there
Right.
now. So if a fan at those big festivals like that actually climb over and get through those two gates, I mean those gates are there for a reason. It's to keep us safe, keep you safe. you know, party, do whatever you got to do, crowd surf, you know, and have a good time. But you know, those guys, you know, all the fans really have to think about the dangers of climbing up on that stage and then jumping down to nothing. You know?
Exactly.
Ultimately,
There's
it's like
nothing
a
there.
freak accident. You know, if you think of the hundreds of thousands, not millions of metal and punk rock shows that have happened in the last 30 years, and like this is a one notable case where that happens. It's just a freak accident, and you can't blame that on Randy Blythe.
Right,
Like if you look at
exactly.
punk or hardcore or whatever, like people just fling themselves off the stage or get thrown.
Oh yeah,
You know,
they go crazy.
and he didn't
man.
throw the guy directly onto the concrete. I mean, people moved out of the way because there was a person falling out of the sky on him. You know, so it's like
You're taking a lot of
unlucky chain of events. You know,
Honestly, I'm surprised people don't get hurt more often. I mean, even us. I mean, you know, it's a numbers game. You keep jumping off a stage, one of these days, there either isn't going to be somebody there to catch you, or they can't catch you because you hit them at a bad angle. I mean, my luck's not so good. I think I would have hit the ground a long time ago. Man. Yeah, it's a
See, I
Oh,
guitar solo.
remember
And
livestock days, man. I was down in the pit, and there was this guy just being a real jerk in the pit and stuff, and just like really just punching people and everything. And he got up and did a stage dive, and everybody just like went and he
And he
went
was like,
slam
ouch.
right on the ground. You could even
Some
hear
that's
him
earned
thud.
deserved.
That's the
Everybody
karma.
was cracking up
That's
about
funny.
that one, but you know, he kind of deserved that
We
one.
had
I
some
think,
people.
so.
That's another
We
thing
had
to
some
think
people
about.
online that are saying a few things.
So what do we got?
Well,
What do we got?
Amanda's her computer froze, but she's here, and
Hello, Amanda.
Michelle Wise said the Aussie farewell tour is 6/2/19 in Tampa.
That's gonna be cool. That's got
It's going to be a great
Yeah.
show.
Megadeth on that.
And
Oh,
Amanda
yeah.
Sayers
Nice bill.
said she loved Velvet Revolver so much. Security. Fans are at fault, they're saying. Definitely not the band's fault. Security needs to be better. Look at Dime. Casey says stay off the stage. That's Erica Michelle Perez.
Well, yeah,
sure.
I mean,
And then Michelle Wise said everyone is just Sue happy. Fans' fault, point blank.
Yeah, that's for sure, man.
Yeah.
Too many people suing these days just for
It's
whatever
like-
reason.
it reminds me of somebody breaking into your house and then they hurt themselves and you end up getting sued for it. Well, little bit different situation, but you know, did you take the hint? Just like you were saying. I mean, look at those barriers. Look at how far you have to go from. You're not supposed to be on here. If you were, we would have charged you extra for it, and you could have been. You know?
Right. Well, the meet and greets later on.
Yeah, the
you know
meet
what I'm
and
saying?
greets
later on.
The meet and greets later on, people.
It's
you know?
not during the show, right?
We also have Cords Owen saying nice show, guys. And Mark Welsh
Thanks,
and
Cords.
Amanda are saying hi to each other. And Mark Welsh says Richard Marx is the man.
That's my
Nice.
brother right there
Yeah,
from another mother.
Exactly.
Speaking of chords, got to give a shout out to them and Bake More Pies for the studio and
Definitely.
the use of the studio here. Their facility is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
And if you're looking to put a show on like this yourself, contact bakemorepies.com and talk to those guys, and Chords will hook you up. It's a great place.
Absolutely.
Great
We have to
people.
give you a
Absolutely.
tour.
Thank you very much, Chords. You rock. We're going to move on from this a little bit. A little somber note here. A couple things that happened. You know, obviously this week, Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. You know, it's always respectable to remember that. Remember those who fought for this country in World War
Absolutely.
II. And
That was horrific.
that was
that
a
was
horrible
horrific.
situation. It's a horrible thing for those that died and passed in that situation. Thank you to all of you who serve. Thanks so much for
That
your
was December
sacrifice.
7th, 1941.
And earlier this week, December 1st, our 41st president, George W. Bush Sr., passed away. Today they held the viewing for him in Washington, and he was 94 years old. He was also a vice president, not just president. So he's vice president before he was president,
Yeah,
which is
he
kind
was-
of a rare thing. It doesn't really happen.
Kind of
that-
forget
that
about
often.
that.
Yeah,
A
he
lot
was
of people
Reagan's
forget about
vice
that.
president.
You know.
I loved
So,
Ronald Reagan.
you
He was
know,
awesome.
Rip to one of our presidents. Thank you for your service. Thank you for serving our country and leading us as you did, and appreciate that. So, on that note, let's move on and let's chat with the guys in the band. So it's our local scene section. We're going to talk about stuff going on down, around town in the local area, shows that are coming into town, and usually we're going to talk to the band as well. Wasn't Elton John supposed to play?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was supposed to
okay.
be November 28th, but I guess it's been can't even talk postponed due to illness. He had like an ear infection, but it's not till November of next year. So
What is it? Was postponed until then, or was that when the?
they postponed it until next year.
Next November.
My ear infection will be gone by November, so I'll come back.
I know, right? That's a long.
He's got it all planned out.
He must have already been booked up. And I have to put my glasses on for this one. Sorry. We have another big event happening at the Brass Mug this next weekend, December 8th and 9th. It's the PBX Playback Independent Music Expo. So we're going to have feature artists such as Dave Ellefson of Megadeth, Jason Bieler, Saigon Kick, Peter Klett of Candlebox, Todd Latour, Queensryche, Stephen Lynch, Autograph, Brian Head Welch of Korn, and many more. And with Dave Ellefson, Psycho Tribe, Fatal Malady, Five Star Hooker, and several others are performing at the Brass Mug on the 8th. And Green Jello, that's a good band, and the Undead, and a few others performing on the 9th.
Yeah, that'd
Not
be a
by
pretty
the hair
cool.
of my chinny chin chin.
Not by the hair of my chin.
Little pig, let me in.
What dream, so to speak. I mean, we're got,
Chinny
you know,
chin chin.
there's going to
That's
be a
all
lot,
I know
lot of
that
great
they sing.
information shared with that. I mean, I know there's like a couple different tickets going on where you got one that's going to be more the meat and potatoes as far as, you know, hey, here's what's going on in the industry. You know, here's some pointers and whatnot. But you know,
And then you got the shows too, the
Absolutely.
concert ones, so they're a little bit different things there. It'd be really cool. We're going to try to get a lot of those guys in here on the show over time. You know, Peter Klett's from Candlebox living here in Tampa now, from what I understand. So is Steve Lynch.
Yeah.
And, of course, Todd Latour. You know, you guys know he's been around this scene for quite some time. So we'll try to get them in here as well. We've been bugging Jason Bieler since we started this thing to get in here.
And Dave, sorry for reaching out to you a little bit late on this one, but we got some ideas moving forward in the future, so we'll see what happens.
I guess
we'll see what happens.
that the Brass Mug is starting to become a hot spot for these industry showcases, because you guys just had one this past weekend.
Yeah, you guys were just there this last weekend.
Yeah, we just played this last weekend down there, and the biggest reason why is the State Theater shut down. That's where they used to be.
I heard they're
So-
Yeah,
redoing
the
it,
State
right?
Theater's being redone.
Like
And that's
it'll
going
be
to be
awesome.
very nice, especially
Yeah.
for all of us original.
We
I
need
haven't been to the
that.
Brass
Local
Mug in a
guys.
while. How is it?
It's moved.
It's not
That's- it's
it
not
moved
the
over to
original one?
Skipper.
Okay.
So it's over there on the corner of Skipper.
Do
And
they redo it
Where is
or
it?
anything that'll make it a little bit different? No.
It's exactly the same. They moved the entire building.
No,
So
I
the
don't
setup's
mean
the
that.
same, it's just
I
different
mean,
location.
Yeah,
I mean, did they do anything for the decor?
it's
Should
really
those
nice
people-
in there. Like they've upgraded the audio a lot, and there's like
Oh.
a separate load-in and backstage area.
Really? Okay.
Much different than the original one where we had load in through the front.
Nice.
Now, did they used to
Yeah.
have like a live thing where you could watch the shows live? I
They
thought there
used
was like
to.
some kind of webcam that you could tap
remember
into
that.
and check
Yeah.
it out.
I don't remember them having that at the Mug.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember that.
It's been a
Yeah.
while
I
since
thought
I
they
played the
did.
Mug or even been there. For
They
that matter.
they definitely didn't have it at the showcase. You know,
Yeah.
they didn't have a live cam.
Sorry, we didn't
Anything
show
like
up,
that.
man.
No,
Scott and I
it's
have been a little under the weather these last few days
Unfortunately.
and stuff, so
They were really sick.
we're
Yeah.
kind of like winging
Yeah.
it today.
Oh yeah.
I don't want
Lucky
to hear
got
your
hit by a
excuse,
Mack
Steve.
truck.
Oh, come on.
No, Dina's in
Plus,
She
I didn't
would've
want
made
to
it.
go
She's
by
got no
myself.
excuse.
Yeah.
I know.
She's scared to go.
I was
by
like,
herself.
oh man, I was sad. I was like, oh, my D didn't show up.
I know. The
What else
next
we got
one,
coming
I
up, Scott?
promise.
Oh man, you want to ask me about what's coming up, especially
Yeah.
when
I'm letting you talk about this one
Generation
because
X.
of who's playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
if I,
Sweet.
I want to go, and if I didn't already, if I wasn't already going, I mean, if you guys want to know what I want for Christmas, that'd be a great gift. Just because, I mean, come on, guys, Steve Vai, Zach Wilde, Yngwie Malmsteen, Nuno Betancourt. I mean, who else do we got? I mean,
Tosin Abasi.
no,
I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he's a
all
monster
killer.
player.
Wow.
Animals
killer
as
guitar
leaders.
players.
Who's playing drums?
That's what he's from. Animals as leaders.
Yeah,
He's playing
That's
drums.
what he's from, and he's ridiculous.
that's a good question. Not sure who's playing.
Sounds like
drums.
the drum. Sounds like who's the drummer? All I hear is guitar
I
players.
know.
Well, it's all
It's
about the
called
guitar
Generation
players.
X.
Drummers don't matter.
Who says?
It's all
Drummers
Generation
don't
X.
matter.
Yeah, drummers and bass players don't matter.
No,
That's
not
right.
in our
Yes.
band.
I have a question. How come all musicians make fun of drummers? They always do.
Because
they're
they
the-
usually I mean drummers, if you're I don't know why because I
Because-
don't have that,
And the
I don't have
drummers
that
are the
problem.
backbone.
Hold on, here's
I
here's
thought it
the
was
mic
always
drop.
bass
Just
players,
look.
you know.
Because it's
Just
easy.
look.
It's easy. They're gullible. They're gullible and they're hidden, right?
Okay,
Nobody can
listen
see
to-
the reaction.
Listen to some of the names of guitar devices. You've got like floating tremolo or rack processor or intelligent harmonizer. Okay, like listen to the drum stuff.
No.
Tom Tom, Crash, China, Splash.
No, hold on.
Kick.
Ride.
You got,
Oh
no,
yeah,
you
bam,
got
bam,
something.
bam, bam.
It's all violence.
It's always about money and pizza and those funny raw.
No, I
corny
take my
jokes.
drumming very seriously.
No, I know.
I'm
just
like,
teasing.
Hey, look, man, if it weren't for the drums and the bass, there would be
Yeah,
no backbone in the band,
exactly.
plain and simple.
There'd be
It's
no
space
meat.
for
There'd be no
sure.
It's funny you
potatoes.
mentioned,
There'd be no
you know,
potatoes.
It would just be like having a bowl of
Potatoes.
whipped cream and nothing else. Now, if you're good
Metal
with that,
drumming
then
is
That's
really
not really bad.
complicated, you
Yeah,
know.
but-
So it's like,
well, I mean, well,
I don't know. I like a little
definitely go
steak
there.
and some potatoes. You know, I mean,
I mean,
that's
and
my
that-
thing. That's
you-
what
you
bass and
mentioned-
drums are.
You mentioned pizza. You mentioned drummers. I mean, how do you get a drummer off your porch?
how do you get a drummer off your porch?
You pay for the pizza.
You pay him exactly. You pay him for the pizza. You know, I mean, not no offense. I mean, the only way I ever knew that the stage was level is the drool comes out of both sides evenly in the drummer's mouth.
I'm sorry I started this.
Bad drummer joke, and you guys know them all.
because you're the drummer.
That's it.
How do you know there's a drummer in the door? The knock speeds up and slows down.
How do you know?
Now, Joe is an
sorry.
incredible drummer. None of this is directed
I'm
at him.
sorry you're getting
personally.
picked on. I
Yeah.
just had to say it because I always hear that. I'm like, why do people pick on the drummer?
What do you call a drummer who breaks up with his girlfriend?
Homeless.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly,
Snaps.
in your defense, it's probably been more bass players in my lifetime.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
No offense,
You know-
I'm just saying bass players that I've known, I swear, I mean, I've had bass players that literally was the case. I mean, if they didn't have a girlfriend, they had no place to live, they
Yeah,
had
I've
no
known
way
a
to
few like that
practice.
myself.
Hey, we stay mobile. You know, I mean, what can I say? You know, that's like, man,
That's one way to look
Got
at
your
it.
bass and your amp, and you're good to go.
that's it. That's all we need. You know, that's how we roll.
I feel like we have the stereotypes like pretty down. I mean, you're definitely a bass player. You're definitely a singer. You're definitely a lead guitar player, not just a guitar
So
player.
you become what you play, in other words.
So,
You
what's
are what
my
you play. You are what
stereotype?
you eat.
a singer.
Yeah, but what is it? I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to know that too. You know,
trying
come
to
on, man.
avoid that.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, sensitive. You're sensitive,
Oh man, here we go.
temperamental.
temperamental. Okay, I'll
Well, his
own that.
instrument is his body.
You know, that's it.
You know,
Yeah, and he
little
likes
bit of
his
a
body. He
difference
a little too much. It puts the lotion on its skin.
I know my instrument very well.
and you
I
have
know
to,
it like the back of my hand.
You kind
Oh,
of
man.
have to take a
Throat,
little bit.
throat
gotta
coat,
stop this line
herbal
of
tea,
talk
right?
quick.
Throat coat works.
And the front
PG,
of my
brother,
hand
PG.
too.
Got to take better care of it as well. So, also we got coming up on the 16th Trans-Siberian Orchestra. It's their 20-year
Yeah.
anniversary tour. That's coming to Emily Arena. Speaking of which, next week here in the studio, or actually, we did an interview with Steve Doc Wapples, the drummer from Sabotage, and next week we're going to be playing that interview. And so, because of
Good
that, next
stuff.
week we're going to be doing a special recognition to Chris Oliva and Paul O'Neill, and
Wow.
we're just going to talk about all things Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Sabotage, Chris Oliva, you know, and stuff like that, and just kind of a little homage to him because it was 25 years ago, I believe, October, that Chris passed away. That was a pretty sad moment for rock and roll,
Yeah.
and for
agree.
Tampa, you know, a big impact. But yet his music lives on through the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, you know, because they do play Sabotage stuff, and so his licks are still out there and reaching the world in a whole new level that he never really even dreamed of, you know, which is pretty amazing. So I thought it would be kind of a nice little homage for that, because literally after the show next week, that weekend is when they're going to be in town and stuff. So, and
Obviously, it complements the interview that we're going to be doing also. You know.
yeah,
with
compliments
Steve.
that interview with Steve completely. So we just thought it all just
You
kind
know,
of
I
fits
have a-
together. In
I have a
fact, we're
couple things
trying
to
to
talk
get
about.
some of the members from John Oliva's Pain to come in here and be in the studio that day. And figured that would be kind of fitting.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So what do you got?
Very nice.
Well, I've kind of, some people were saying some things. They were talking about, Mark Welsh said bass players need to keep the drummer in time. And Amanda said singers too. And Michelle Weiss says just hook up the bass player with the drummer and problem solved.
Oh,
These
man.
people haven't
Hook
seen our
up
band.
like
I know,
mean,
right?
Haven't
Hook
seen our
up, hook
band.
up.
And Mark Welsh says I've no more singers and guitar players to be homeless.
nice.
Now, is that
Thank you,
talking
Mark,
about-
my
yeah,
brother.
Is
Gets my
that a
back,
hookup?
you know.
Hookup?
For the record, my
We're gonna
house
leave
is
that one
completely
alone.
paid
Yeah,
off.
Now,
we definitely need to leave.
if there's any long blonde-haired female drummers, yeah, I'd hook up with that.
Yeah.
What's up, ladies?
Right,
Nice.
right.
Well, Casey, you play drums, don't you?
I'd have to dye my hair.
Whoa, that was the mic drop, buddy.
Well, same day Trans-Siberian Orchestra is going to be in town. We got Hailstorm, speaking of lovely
Yeah.
ladies.
Yes.
And they're going to be playing at the Mojave. And then Shinedown at the House of Blues in Orlando on the 29th.
Great.
They are killer. I love Shinedown.
Actually, I think the last time I saw him was with you.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was,
that's
as a
what
matter of fact. Yeah,
So
that was an
then,
awesome one.
Five-Figure Death Punch.
I've never seen them live.
Honestly, man, I've probably the most pyrotechnics in one show. I mean, I'm not going to say anything bad, but
Really?
that's the first show I've ever seen where it seemed like the pyros were so intense that it almost took away from the music a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just my opinion, but I mean, man, it's
I don't know that single. What was that? What was that single they just came out with? The Devil's in the Next Room.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I mean that's a slamming single to come out with.
Absolutely.
I
Haven't
heard
heard
that
it
and I
yet.
was like, what?
The first time I heard those guys, I was like, wow, these guys are killer. You know, I'd have to say out of bands that have come out in the last 10 years or so, they're by far, you know.
Remember, it was like I
favorite.
think it was 45. Remember?
Yeah, I think it was
reminded
45
me
that
of a
came
lot
out.
of 80s, you know, the real 80s feel to it, which isn't a bad thing. I'm just
Yeah,
that
after,
was pretty cool.
after the grunge era happened, when they came out, they're by far my favorite band from after the grunge era, for sure.
Great,
They just,
great
they
singer
really,
too.
they
Great
really
singer,
just
great singer.
brought hard rock, heavy metal back. I think they had a big impact in that. So,
Bring back the grunge era for me was like, you know, like the stale sad era.
yeah.
And everything was dreary and
Oh, yeah,
you know,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, and bands like Five Finger Death Punch and them guys coming out and Shinedown and all these guys are actually, yeah, you're right, they're bringing back that high energy rock and roll
Yeah.
that was so prominent in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
You know, that really made the image of what rock and roll was.
Right.
You know.
Well, they brought back the guitars.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, they brought and there's even guitar solos. Woo.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Yeah,
what's
that's that-
nice.
Do you
You're loving that, aren't
remember?
you?
Yeah.
Remember back in the day? I mean, you know, in the 80s, you know, you got all this great music, and the first thing I do is just fast forward to that guitar. So let's see, you know, let's
see what he's
what's
working
in
with.
it.
In a time,
Yeah.
in a time when all the music is going crazy, and that's good. There's a market for everything, but I think it's bands like Shinedown that really show you what is timeless about rock and roll.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
it's like what is timeless. You know, AC/DC will always be timeless. Bands like those riffs is timeless.
I think Avenged Sevenfold's another like more modern band that's kind of bringing the guitar pyrotechnics thing
Yeah.
back. You know.
Bring
Yeah,
the shred
absolutely.
back.
That's what I'm saying. If you listen to a lot of the riffs that they're throwing down, you know, it's a lot of those 80s styles riffs with a little bit more double bass, and instead of having the clean Halford style vocals, you know, they're putting that grit in there, and so that keeps it on the modern side. But if you listen to the guitars and the riffs they're actually throwing down, those are a lot of 80s riffs, you know,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
80s style riffs.
It is-
And play the solos. You know, you got a 5-minute song. You know, you only have, you know, stick in, you know, what, 45 seconds, maybe a minute, you know, of the, you know, for the guitar player to play. You know, take your shot, play it. Don't give your spot up. And you know, here I am sitting next, and I'm saying, don't ever give your spot up.
I've had like literally 2-minute long solos in some of my 5-minute songs in this band or our old band before, but I don't know. I mean, that was a staple of 70s and 80s music where the guitar was featured as prominently as the lead vocal.
Right.
And people that weren't musicians seemed to respond well to that. I mean, look at how many Wise Eruption played on the radio still.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Right,
yeah,
People
absolutely.
love it, and
Absolutely.
it's not just a musician-centric thing.
Yeah, I agree. You know, everybody in the band has a role in that, and I've always felt the lead guitar played a role in that, and that's what one of the things I hated about the grunge era was when the lead disappeared. You know, I was
Lead
like, really?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. That,
come
yeah.
on.
Well, you know,
That's
for
what I'm
every
saying. It's like
action, there's an
negative.
equal and opposite reaction, and I think people were just so burnt out on the hair metal thing, and it was shoved down their throats too much that like
Yeah.
that was the reaction, like really bad guitar playing. But then at least out of that era, we have like Chris Cornell and Lane Staley, which is
Yeah.
cool. But
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I
I mean,
mean,
it's
there was
Mad
definitely some
Season.
great stuff that came out.
See, I don't
mean,
put them in the grunge category. I put them in the timeless category. It's just
True.
bad,
well, they're rooted in
awesome.
metal, you know. Like if you listen to a lot of that Alice in Chains and Soundgarden stuff, I mean, they sound like metal records.
Yeah, well, even both of those bands cite Black Sabbath, you know, as influence for them and stuff like that. So, I mean, you know, I think you get much more metal than that, right?
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, I love the era. I don't like the fact that you know, being a guitar player and from the 80s, all of a sudden the solos disappeared and got replaced with takes that are out of tune. I mean, I hate to say it, you know, if your guitar is out of tune, wouldn't you stop the take and do it over instead of going, hey man, that was
Well, look
awesome.
at what the music industry did. Like grunge, you think this is bad? Hold my beer. Check this out. You know, watch the next 20 years.
I know.
Yeah.
and you know, bass playing also. I mean, I'd put bass playing under a magnifying glass again. Being from the '80s, you know, I was thinking, hey, you know, bass playing is going to be all over the place, and you got to be like a Billy Sheehan and this and that. And then listening to a lot of the bands right now, I mean, you hear it's like bass is almost louder or as loud as a rhythm guitar, or it's playing, you know, syncopated, the same thing. One thing I want to definitely mention is that one of the things that stood out for me a lot, Rich, is the video that we saw with War of Thrones. Awesome.
Oh, thank you, thank
Man,
you.
that was killer. Not songs great guitar solo, all that, but I mean, you guys, you just don't see bass solos anymore. You really don't. Not to mention something that was as badass as that. So I definitely wanted to let you
Oh, thanks,
throw
man.
props out
your
there.
licks really
Awesome.
stood out.
Very awesome.
We have
Very
parts in our
awesome.
songs where we do like that killer metal beat, and then we just break out and syncopate it, all of us together playing the same 16th note triplets or something. I mean, and it's
Well,
totally
that
long,
stuff
rock solid.
is solid, man. That just really grabs you when you hear that stuff, and I love that. I love it when bands kind of do one of these numbers and come together and
And that's
split up.
Nice
Exactly.
dynamic. You know, nice dynamic.
it adds
breaks up the
dynamic,
song.
and it's not something, you know, I mean, the bands like Dream Theater, you know, they have John Mayung, obviously, who is a tremendous bass player, and early on in Dream Theater's career, you know, there was a lot of little bass clips and stuff like that. And what Jericho Siren is trying to do that's a little bit different is we're trying to give it its own feel. Instead of just being like, oh, okay, this is a bass solo or this is overly syncopated, we're trying to find that middle ground, you know, where the songs are still strong songs, but they have that flash and that flair, you know. And right now, me and Joe, we're working hard at creating like our own groove within the groove, you know. I don't know if that makes any sense, you know.
Of
It's kind
course.
of the groove within the groove.
You know what? We
Trying to
should
create a-
introduce the band.
I was just
Yeah.
going to say that, as a matter of fact. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Joseph Pantis, drummer. Been playing, I'm classically trained after playing drums for 10 years of just that raw. So I just love playing, always have been playing.
Cool. Very nice.
Rich Mark's bass. That's all
That's
you
all
guys
you're
need to
gonna
know.
All you need to know.
That's all you need to know. Slap of the bass, baby.
Slapping the bass.
KC Connor, lead vocals. I've been at this since the, I'll date myself here, I've been at this since the mid 80s, and currently training opera with Mario Lorente, who
Oh
is
wow.
97 years old.
Wow.
This man has been teaching voice longer than we've all been alive.
He's
gosh,
forgot
that's
more than
amazing.
So
Lord,
cool,
probably.
so cool. So you're doing some opera stuff.
I want to hear some
That's-
of that. I love opera.
Oh.
I don't know it a whole lot, you know what I mean? But I
Don't-
would love it. And I want to go to
Don't
opera.
put me on the
Yeah,
spot.
Italian.
first thing I thought of was
No, he can
Bohemian
do a little-
Rhapsody. I was like, okay.
What?
I
You should
see
do a
with the
little
silhouette
demo.
of a man.
After he introduces himself.
It's Matt
No
Roberts,
pressure.
guitarist, lead guitarist, do a lot of the songwriting, and I've been playing 20 years, really into the shred guitar thing, like Steve Vai and Yngwie Malmsteen, Paul Gilbert.
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. some
I was
great
watching
stuff.
Beavis and Butthead when I'm 31, so it's like 6 years old. And I was watching Beavis and Butthead, and the video for One by Metallica came on, and it did like the triple part came on, the metal part, you know, and they were all headbanging. And I was 6 years old, and I saw that, and I was like, that's what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Oh my gosh.
Just bang
So I
my head.
did.
Beavis
Nice.
and Butthead
Oh,
were
how
your
about this?
inspiration.
Wanna
What
bang
was
his head for the
everyone's
rest of his
first
life.
concert? Mine was 311.
Oh, good band.
Mine was Kiss in 1989.
Nice.
Yeah. West Palm Beach Auditorium, Hot in the Shade tour. That's right. Tesla, Slaughter played that show as well.
Sounds
So
like a
that's
good
right. Get better than that. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if this is better, but it's much more embarrassing. My first live concert, Loverboy.
Oh, okay. That explains everything.
Do you remember Zebra?
Yeah.
Yes.
They opened.
Oh my gosh.
I'm fortunate enough that my parents were really into hard rock when I was growing up. So I was 3 years old, and I don't remember if it was Deep Purple or Blue Oyster Cult, but one of those two bands.
Wow.
I don't have a recollection of it, obviously.
It was some
but
color. There was a color
Yeah.
involved.
There
There
was
was
a
a color
color.
involved, right?
there was
Yeah.
definitely a band.
Or multiple rainbow colors.
Yeah.
My first concert was Crocus, Accept, and Rough Cut in Detroit.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. And,
Very nice.
Actually, it would have been Prince on his Purple Rain tour. It would have been opening night, front row center. A friend of mine had tickets to it that he got from his dad who worked at the venue. And my dad wouldn't let me go because I was still in high school. So
Wow.
I was like, what a bummer.
What Crocus album was that? What tour was that?
What the heck tour was that? That was when they were doing Ballroom Blitz.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so it was later. There's no offense to any Crocus fans out there, but the only album is Headhunter. That's the only Crocus album worth anything is Headhunter. After that, I was done.
Well, Rough Cut opened the show, and it was Accept, and Crocus was the headlining and stuff. It was a great show, though. It was at the Fox Theater in Detroit. It was a pretty cool little theater there.
Nice.
How about you, bro?
Well, my mom was overprotective, so I mean, I didn't get to do anything. So to be honest with you, my first concert was 5150 Van Halen.
Oh.
So, boy, did I miss out on a lot of things.
Yeah, but
Okay.
that's a damn good one to break out.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
and it's good, but you know the thing is again the reason why my mom didn't want me to go because of all the obvious things that could happen, and so she figured it'd be a good idea to send me to the concert with my uncle, which is all great, fine, and dandy considering the fact that he started lighting up, you know, smoking marijuana. You ain't gonna tell your mom that I'm doing this. I'm like, of course not, as long as you share. And that was the end of it. I mean, it was a great thing. Bad influence, great, you know, whatever. That's how it is, and nobody's gonna get in trouble because it's a long time ago,
well,
anyways. But
You just told your mom.
you know, unfortunately, my mom has passed, and so is my uncle David, who brought me there. I mean,
She's looking down on you now. She knows, brother.
I have a
You're
feeling
buzzed.
she
Well, I
probably
know.
knew. You know,
You're such a buzzkill, bro.
No, it's not buzzkill,
Figured it
because,
out.
you know, if you're gonna have me smoke with somebody, you might as well be family, right?
Yeah, sure.
And
How about you, D?
I didn't inhale anyways.
I'm trying to remember.
Uh-huh.
I probably saw maybe Rat, but it was like later on, and it was like in the 90s, and it's kind of a blur. But I actually did the respectable thing, and I had
You
kids.
were off having kids,
I
yeah.
was having kids and all that. I probably went to some Christian concerts. That was things in churches, you know, that might have
Hey,
been
listen,
my
there's
first
some
real
great
one.
Christian
Yeah.
bands, man. Look at
Cutlass
Striper.
and all
Yeah,
the
Striper
kind of
rocks,
bands,
and one of
yeah.
my favorite
Skillet.
was and Skillet too, and
Oh, I know
White
what it
Cross.
was.
Who's heard of White
Yeah.
Cross?
Oh, I
Yeah,
loved
Pretty
White
White
Cross.
Cross.
Rex
And
Carroll,
Res
that guitar
Band.
player's
Do you
killer,
remember
man.
Resurrection Band? That was probably one of they used to have these big festivals like the Jesus festivals. That was probably my first.
We're getting too off
You know-
this track now.
No,
Well,
like it was. They had tons. It was like Speakers and Res Band. They were like the godfathers of the Christian rock. So
I mean, since-
that's probably my first concerts, to be honest. If you
Talking
think
about
about
Godfathers, you mean Petra? All
Yeah,
right?
Petra.
for sure.
Petra.
Petra for sure.
I mean, since you brought it up, I mean, I remember one time up in Minnesota that I went to some Billy Graham event, but you have no idea. He packed a stadium that you just can't pack, let alone there was overflow outside. Now, you know, reason why we bring this up, we're talking about Christian bands. I had no idea that you can be Christian in any style of music. I mean, Demon Hunter came on. I'm like, wow, now this is some heavy stuff. This is way before Kill Switch Engage or anything like that. And I mean, we're talking some heavy
yeah,
stuff.
they're
I
pretty
mean,
heavy.
drumming, everything was just, I have no idea what
I
he
don't know
was
if you've
saying.
ever
but
heard them, but they're very heavy.
real heavy. But I mean, I guess my point is just Christian, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you can.
Yeah.
You can
I don't
be
know
all
if you
styles
guys
of music.
heard of that Sacred Warrior band.
Oh, I love them.
And
I
those
saw
guys
them
are
in
pretty
concert.
heavy. And there's a band called Vengeance out there. You know, that's actually Christian
I
thrash.
haven't heard that one.
Yeah.
Nice.
So they're very heavy as well. They're actually friends of mine on Facebook. I just want to
cool.
give them a shout.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
We had a few more things
Sure.
online. Erica
Spit it out.
Michelle Perez said, "Awesome show this past weekend. These guys killed it." To your band.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
Thank
Cool.
you.
And Cheryl says, Cheryl McGorley Madaw, loved that bass solo last week. And Diane Good said, I think I shot someone here. Bandana guy. You. Banana guy, sorry.
Banana.
Banana guy.
Yeah, Rich Marks.
I'm sure he has no problem with bandana
I
guy.
know, right?
Don't call him banana
I know.
guy.
That's how,
That's it.
Okay.
Just
I've known him for a
say it.
while.
that's how I introduce you from now on, Banana
That's
Guy.
it.
Oh,
Banana
yeah.
guy.
And the banana
Oh.
guy on bass guitar.
Banana guy.
Anyway.
I don't slap with the bass, I slap with the banana. That doesn't sound right. Hold on.
Yeah,
Scratch
that's-
that. Can I
All
do
right,
that over
let's
again?
go elsewhere.
Delete,
Moving
delete.
on.
You're not going to be allowed with the Dorito feet of school anymore.
That's it.
Now coming at you live, the banana solo. All right. Yeah.
Well,
So,
anyway.
how did you guys get your start? You know, I mean, Rich, I know you've been involved in a lot of really killer projects, you know, with Wade. In fact, you know, we had Wade on last week.
I watched the show.
And we were asking Wade what his ideal band would be, you know, his dream band, and he happened to mention you on bass, along with Dimebag and
That's gotta
and
say
his
a lot
brother
right
on
there.
Oh,
drums.
yeah.
That's really cool.
You know,
Quite a compliment from Wade on that one for sure.
absolutely. And you know, I mean, Wade is one of my very, very best friends, him and Rick both. And is a super tremendous guy and a super tremendous vocalist. And the stuff that we do is very unique, because when you got best friends doing stuff, you know,
It's like a marriage,
generates,
there's more
yeah, it's like
emotion.
you know, and it's a one for all and an all
Yeah.
for one kind of thing, you know, and like, you know, with this group, you know, I've known Matt for what, 7 or 8 years actually, you know, and we've always stayed in contact. We've done shows together.
And
You
you
know,
have
him,
to have that
Sy-Axis,
common bond. You have to.
and
It's like
whatnot.
a marriage, it won't work.
And then I
if you
think
don't.
that, you know, yeah, you have to have that, you know, and that's the thing, is me and Matt are good friends, and we did the priest band
Right,
together.
I
He was
remember that.
one of the original guitar players in that.
Right.
And I think in that moment, you know, we would be rehearsing and we'd add all these crazy licks and do all this stuff, and we were like, man, you know, this could go somewhere, and you know, eventually this is where we're at now, is with Jericho Siren. You know, Casey I've known for a little while too, and so it's very comfortable to step into this spot with these guys. Me and Joseph are still building our repertoire musically, you know, but we gel. Like, you know, when you just meet and start playing, and it's so easy
It's
for
natural.
us.
Yeah.
Right, it's very natural. So, you know, look out, because we got some stuff coming at you
Very
for
cool.
sure.
And
We're
weren't
right now
you
in
in
the studio
Disaster
recording.
Piece too? The local
Yeah,
one?
so that's how I originally, because I'm from San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
I'm representing right now.
Represent, nice.
Born and raised, and then so after the whole college thing, I moved to Cincinnati, and then moved down here. And then when I came down here, just been playing different things, I said, okay, I want to be in a band, and I joined Disaster Piece, and that's how this guy snaked me.
And Chris Kennedy, he snaked you.
Not exactly. So, kind of. I poached
Far
him.
out
That, yeah. So,
with no
I
intention
started a
of
band
doing-
called Sy-Axis back in like
I
2006.
remember that.
Yeah, I want to do like a Savatage inspired band, but like a little heavier and a little more progressive. And that's when I met Casey, and I was 19 years old at that time. And he came on board as a lyricist and songwriter and you know, lead vocalist, and we had to part ways because of his schedule, but he stayed on board as a ghostwriter, and we did a lot of bigger
Okay.
shows. We played with John Leave His Pain, Morbid Angel,
Oh,
Wasp,
nice.
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 Circle to Circle, Anvil,
Yay.
a lot of bigger shows around here. And then we made our debut album with, we got drummer Marco Miniman, who's gone on to play with Alex Lifeson. He's doing a Rush, an album with a guitar player from Rush.
Nice.
Toured with Joe Satriani. Played with another guy, Guthrie Govan. You might know him in a
Yeah.
band called the Aristocrats.
Yeah, with
Yep.
my good friend Brian Beller,
Yeah.
who I met back in 1988. I've been
Small
friends
world.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we made that record in 2011, and that kind of fizzled out. But when I was in that band, I met the guitar player of Disaster Piece, who invited me to come to his rehearsal, and they were more of like a hard rock cover band. I go see this guy playing drums and doing this crazy like Lamb of God drum parts, and I thought, man, I really have to play with this guy, because drummers are kind of a unicorn around here. Competent drummers, anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, I mean, you know, when you mentioned Disaster Piece, I mean, I've actually heard like 3 bands with the same exact name, you know, to just reiterate, I mean, I'm wondering if we're talking about the same band. Are you talking about the cover band that's out playing right now called
Yeah.
Disaster Piece?
I actually like those guys. They're good. They're pretty solid.
I played with them.
Very
and
solid.
Yeah,
Very
they got-
meticulous. You know, they really invest a lot of time into what they do, and it shows. They put on a great show.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Songs are very authentic, but it wasn't really a good musical fit for him. And he and I met each other, and it just clicked like that.
I mean,
Nice.
I had a studio in St. Pete, my own place, and it's right next to that. The same place that Candlebox, that guy has his studio.
Cool.
Oh, nice.
And I forget the name. I just know the guy who owns it is a bass player. It's an awesome place. They record out of there.
Yeah, that's James.
You sure? You said it was owned by the bass player. Sure, it wasn't his girlfriend that owned it, or?
I don't know.
I don't
I just
know.
know
I
that
could-
the guy.
I got his number in my phone. We could call him and ask him.
Wow.
Anyways, so he came over
I know,
one
you're
day.
bad, man.
He came over one day.
Hey,
and,
listen. No, go ahead.
Trouble.
we just developed the chemistry together. I could tell him, like, hey, play in 7/8 or play sextuplets on your feet, and he could just do it.
The funny thing is I'm like, dude, that's not 7/8. You're playing in 4/4. You just think it's 7/8.
like that. But with this band, I wanted to do more of a straightforward metal band that was more like song-oriented and hook-oriented, but still had elements of progressive metal.
Cool.
So, like Rich mentioned, we're just striking that balance between like doing something that's going to appease the judgmental musicians in the crowd, but
Sure.
also that somebody who's not a musician or a big Rush fan can enjoy and bang their head to.
Yeah, for sure.
We're in the studio right now making our first EP.
I was just
so.
going to ask you
Cool,
about
nice.
that. So.
Yeah.
Really nice.
When do you see that coming out?
Hopefully soon is the
Early 2019, hopefully.
Yeah.
It's kind
That's
of
what I'm
my
thinking.
fault. I haven't gotten back in there to finish my parts.
Slacker
I
singers, I
know.
tell you, man.
Singers, man.
He had a
we're-
blister on his foot. It's been like a 7
Well,
month
Oh
delay.
man,
Ode to Sweet Spot Studios, who did my drums. Our boy Jimmy out there.
Yeah.
I've never received such amazing sound quality and service for teching the drums, and I mean, we spent 3 days.
That's actually where we
of
recorded
love.
War of Thrones too, with Patrick
Nice.
Johansson.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
That's a
so
great
he's in there in
album,
the
man.
Oh.
same studio. In there,
Nice.
Jimmy is an excellent engineer and has a great facility. Sweet Spot Studios, I'm going to plug him real quick.
Go for it.
Jim Fox over at Sweet Spot Studios. You can find him on Facebook. Just look up Sweet Spot Studios on Facebook, and you can message him directly there. Rates are killer, and the guy is just an amazing engineer.
Yeah, well, the War of Thrones album is really, really good. It's real solid. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Good stuff. What blew me away when I was researching you was the Vivaldi project that you're doing.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. That's
got some
cool.
big names on that.
They're
man.
and it's and that project's actually growing. And they're starting off to do a touring project over in Europe, and when it moves to the States, I'll be doing that section of it. It's too expensive to fly me over there for those shows and stuff like that. And there's a lot of good bass players that are over there covering those spots. But yeah, that's a great project. Another one that I'm doing right now is Galaxy Unknown, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the band Dream Child, the new band with Craig Goldie, Simon Wright, Rudy Sarzo, the new
Haven't
super
heard
band.
That sounds
Well,
cool. Some good musicians, man.
yeah. Well, they're not doing the Galaxy Unknown, but the singer from that, Diego Valdez, who has that Dio quality. I wouldn't say he's exactly Dio because there is no such thing.
Right.
But if the next best thing is Diego, I mean, the guy's just incredible. He's doing that along with Wade Black,
Very cool.
Nice.
Rick Rundstrom, fastback guitarist Trevor Johnson is on there, doing that, and my good friend Owen Bryant, he's playing drums on there as well, and it's a very killer project. So keep your eyes out for that too.
Absolutely.
Very
You know,
cool.
and
Yeah.
Very cool.
So when you guys get your EP done, we'll have to bring you back in here, and we'll break it for you and slap it out there.
Yeah,
And,
We'd be honored.
have you
Yes,
guys
absolutely.
maybe doing
Yeah.
a song acoustically here in the studio for us and stuff. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah,
love to.
So
I'm sure we
we'll
can
have
work
to
that out
have
for
you
sure.
back for-
Yeah.
I mean,
sure
that
on
sounds good for the string instruments.
You can play a
Look, you can play the
cajon.
couch, bro.
A
You know,
cajon, yeah.
just bring your sticks in
Or
and
some bongos.
Thumper.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
give you
We'll give you a triangular because there was
give you a bucket.
Triangular.
a bucket.
There we go.
Yeah, triangle solo would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know what's good about that? You don't
Cowbell.
even have to like play really fast. You can just like.
Oh, absolutely.
You know that one?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but then all the cowboys will come and want dinner.
We'll give you a finger symbols. You just do this, the little finger symbols. Cast up.
Just pass those out to the audience. It's gonna be a whole audience jam. You know?
Yeah.
That's great.
No. You guys are doing it all
A couple
wrong.
belly
That's
dances.
it.
We can get them in here to do that
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
do happen to know a couple. I'm not going to give any shout outs, but you know who you
Yeah.
are.
You know.
You know who you are.
That's so funny.
So as far as anything else goes, man, I mean, I'm just, I'm glad to have you guys in the studio and all that good stuff. I mean, I'm looking forward to, what you guys are working on moving forward. I mean, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, really looking forward to hearing it, man.
Yeah, it's just like we said, the actual, we're trying to keep it pretty straight ahead metal and song orientation, but there are very progressive elements to it. And Matt Roberts here is, if you haven't heard him, go look up the Syaxis record and listen to this guy play. If you can search him online on YouTube and whatever, he is one of the most tremendous guitar players I have seen in this area ever.
I'm blushing.
He's so pretty.
Stop.
And
Why don't you spell that for me? Because
and
it's a different
KC,
spelling.
KC is very reminiscent. He can do all that Halford style vocal.
Nice.
He can, he can do very clean vocals as well. Todd Latore, he can do that style.
So you can
clean,
mix
clean
it
right.
up.
Todd
Not a
Latore
range.
actually filled in on drums, and I don't know this little known fact, but he's also a very, very skilled drummer.
Oh, yes,
and
he is.
Right.
He
Yeah.
learned almost note for note all of Marco Miniman's parts and filled in for a
Wow.
couple shows with Syaxis on drums. And
Cool.
I was blown away because it's not often you get a singer that's can do that and then go play like 7/2 and 9/2 and on the drums. It's crazy, If you are going to look Syaxis up on YouTube, it's Psyaxis. The album's called Black Dawn Rising.
Cool.
Nice. Real
Nice.
nice.
Well, thanks, guys. We appreciate you coming in here and sharing your input on your band and being a part of the show with us and stuff. So
Yeah.
Oh, our
It's
for
nice
having
to
us.
have you.
Great to be here.
definitely have you. So we're gonna move on to the next section here and do our fan poll and talk about that. So. So actually, this section's called crowd surfing. This is where we kind of get our viewers involved and get some fan interaction. And we usually put up a poll every week. Tried to do one when we started the show that was supposed to go on during the show, but it didn't quite show up and work. We're trying to figure that one out still. But we are putting one up every week. In fact, the one that's going to be coming up starting tomorrow is involving Chris Oliva. He's going to be a part of that questionnaire and that poll and stuff. So just kind of to go along with our Chris Oliva thing we got going on next week. And so this week's poll was, which is the better psychedelic band, Pink Floyd or Grateful Dead? What do you guys think?
Pink Floyd, my
Yeah,
opinion.
I'm a Pink Floyd guy all the way.
I mean, how many Pink Floyd songs can you name? How many Grateful Dead songs can you name?
Well, it depends on what
Well,
area
Who
you're
you're
on.
asking?
Exactly.
I can actually name quite a bit of
Because you're
both,
talking
but-
about two totally different eras,
Right.
and how many I have to stand up for the Grateful Dead. These guys probably still have people that follow them around.
Oh yeah, the
touring.
Deadheads.
Just follow them around from place to place. The Deadheads, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how they live their life.
Right.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
How many
but
bands can you
I
name
never-
that have that?
Which
Yeah,
band goes Dark
exactly.
Side of the Moon?
I was
though?
like,
That's
really?
the question.
Let's ask the native San Franciscan where it all started, because
Did the drummer just speak? I didn't hear that.
There you go.
no. If you ask anyone there, I guarantee you they'll say Dead,
Yeah.
because that's where they grew up. It's ingrained in the culture.
Yeah.
I don't think Pink Floyd's necessarily as ingrained in that culture the same way.
How many Deadheads does it take to change a light bulb?
I mean, none.
But
Do we want to hear this?
They won't change it. They just wait till it burns out, and then they follow it around for years and years and years and years.
Wow.
You just went there.
Wow.
I apologize to Deadhead fans. It's just a joke.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Don't take
just
it
a
seriously.
joke.
Just some humor, man.
And I mean,
That's funny.
I grew up, and I mean, there's tons of
grew
Deadheads.
up?
No, I didn't actually grow up. You know, just to put a timeline on it, you know, 7 years ago. I mean, you know, Pink Floyd was a hell of a band. I mean, I got stories to tell, just like probably all you guys do. I mean, of going to watch them from what I can remember. I mean, I remember a quadraphonic sound was like a brand new thing at the Metrodome up in Minnesota, where I remember, you know, going to main floor and standing on my chair, and after X amount of time looking down, forgetting I was actually standing in a chair. I was actually standing on a chair, even though it felt like I was floating, but I actually was. You know, it was pretty cool. I mean,
Did you fall?
I can't say I may have tripped, but I didn't fall.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We won't talk about that.
No, we're not going to talk
So
about
what's
that.
your opinion on that, D?
On
Pink Floyd
I-
and Grateful Dead.
I didn't really get into the Grateful Dead, so I would say Pink Floyd.
Well, you got to say one thing. You know, the Grateful Dead's got something going for them with the fact that they do have the Deadheads, and you know they've got the fan base that just follows them everywhere. And you can't really say that about hardly any bands.
Any bands.
That's
yeah.
true.
It's a
That's
very, very,
true.
very rare thing, and those guys started what is known as the Wall of Sound. You know,
Yeah.
What is the wall of sound?
Apparently, it's not known.
Bass, you know, the drummer spoke again. Didn't he?
Did you hear something?
The Wall of Sound is just stacks and stacks and stacks
exactly.
of amps and just blasting
Loud.
sound, loud,
Yeah.
loud.
And
I don't know.
they-
I wonder if Manowar topped that, because I heard they were the loudest band ever. That they had the loudest concert.
They
ever.
have, but the
Yeah, but
terminology.
Ted
actually-
Nugent's band also held that record for a while too, from around the early days of when he was out,
You
you know, touring.
Unless you tell me the exact distance they measured the decibels from, I don't care. Who,
I don't know. They've said it.
That's
They've
what-
said it about the Who. They said it about Ted Nugent. They've said it about Manowar. They've said it about a bunch of different. And I think it's time and place. All I know is at one point, I believe it was. This is something I had seen a long time ago. I believe it was actually Kevin Cronin from REO Speedwagon had said that they borrowed Ted Nugent's sound system for an outdoor concert, and were told that they could be heard 5 miles away.
No.
And Ted's reaction to that was that he was so proud that that was the case. Now that
I'm sure he
again,
is.
this is something I heard. Oh, I don't know. Could be 30 years ago.
I also heard that he specifically had his amps set to 11. They didn't go to 10. They went to 11.
That was Spinal Tap. I
Oh,
did
Yeah,
too.
Spinal Tap that did that.
That was funny.
When we bring up Spinal Tap, if I can just a little known fact. I saw Spinal Tap live at the Beacon Theater in New York City for the Break Like the Wind tour.
Really?
Nice.
I still have the concert T-shirt.
Oh hell
Nice.
Oh
no.
my gosh.
Nice. So going back to the question there, you know, Grateful Dead obviously has that great distinction going for them, but you've also got to give it up for Pink Floyd. I don't think any other band has ever done what Pink Floyd's done. They haven't, you know, there has been no other band like Pink Floyd throughout history. There's been other followers and stuff, but none of them have accomplished Pink Floyd.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Greatness
I still had
in
to step up for the Grateful Dead and give them props for.
Well, I give them
Whatever,
massive
but-
props for what they've accomplished, no question
We have
about
some-
it. But when you go to Pink Floyd and you happen to mention Dark Side of the Moon, it's the longest running album in the top 200 in history.
There's a reason for that, you know.
And when it dropped out of that, it was literally back
It's
on
called
the
acid.
charts the very next day. The very next day, because it became news. It had gone so long being in the top Billboard charts, and then all of a sudden it dropped out. There was no other album that's ever going to come close to that. I mean,
Has anybody done the Wizard of Oz thing with it? I never have.
I have
No, I
actually. I
actually
have
haven't.
seen that, and it is really interesting. Very, very cool. It's almost like they made it right along.
And that
with
record's
it,
it's
so.
one of those things that it's such a good piece of art that it transcends the boundaries of time. Like I took my mom to go see Roger Waters last year, and I told her, Mom, I was 13 and I used to smoke dope in my room and listen to Dark Side of the Moon with my friends. And she said, I did that when I was 13 too.
You had this bonding experience.
Bond with your mom.
Mother.
I never would have told her that when I was a kid, but now as an adult, you know,
That's
right.
it's a unifying experience. But the music is so good that like, it's not like culturally specific or age
Right.
specific. You know, it's just good.
Yeah.
Timeless. There's certain qualities
There
of
it
rock
is.
and roll that are timeless.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, you know, in the poll, Pink Floyd did win.
Yep.
The
Yeah,
majority of people.
I knew
voted
they
for
were.
them,
I
so-
still had to
Yeah.
speak up for
You know.
the
Yeah.
dead.
We have some comments from people. Michelle Weiss said Pink Floyd, and Cheryl McGurley-Madaw said, I saw the Grateful Dead 36 times. They are a live band. Gave a
Wow.
lot to live music, wall of sound, but I vote for Floyd. These bands are apples and oranges. And she
No, they
said
are different.
Floyd gave a lot to music with quad sound, live and recorded. And Grateful Dead definitely has the best acid.
Not that we know that, but you know what? I mean, I guess you could compare, but I mean,
Well,
it's an experience. You know, I mean, the things that you do and the things that you take, it's still the overall
Right.
experience, which makes it fun.
And
And I mean,
36 shows. I mean,
that's
kudos
crazy.
to her for
Yeah.
that. I mean, that
No
is
doubt.
dedication.
Yeah.
To I would only ever hope that I could have a fan that dedicated.
that's
Yeah, I
awesome.
know.
That is incredible.
That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
She also said that what the wall of sound is where the musicians control their own sound levels, etc. It cuts out all the feedback and blasts it out clear to the crowd through the huge stacks. Groundbreaking in 1973-74. And she said, if you haven't seen the Dead live, you haven't heard the Dead. We all know their studio recordings suck, and they only play 5 of their worst songs on the radio. Even the Dead hate their albums. Oh my gosh.
Well, they're an incredible jam band.
It's a wealth of information.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
they just
absolutely.
they just have that
Thank
ability.
you, Cheryl.
They, you know, to just go off and jam, and it's
Crazy.
not. It doesn't sound like a jumbled mess. That much I can tell you. I mean, they just lock in and go.
It's
Right.
almost like subgenres of like metal. I was in a band, Short Fusion. Those guys are diehard metalheads, and they would know all these subgenres like darkened black metal. Like, how can you get darker than like black metal?
Darker than dark.
It's almost
It's
like
darker than black.
I
You know?
really hate
It
dark
can't be
metal.
compared to the
It's-
happy-go-lucky black metal. We got to make the distinction.
I know, but it's like
It's not like unicorn black metal. It's like dark and black metal.
I know, but like,
Unicorn?
but I feel like it's
There's such a thing.
Did you say unicorn?
No,
black
no,
metal?
It seems like-
Rainbow
It
black.
just seems like redundant that they would say that, but a lot
Rainbow
of it,
black metal.
Metal is subdivided so
So
many
I'm saying
ways.
if
Subdivided
that's the
crazy.
case, I'm not going to throw any categories into music ever again. I hate to do it already, but you know, once you start throwing unicorns in there, guys,
Yeah.
That's it. That's no longer metal. You know,
Hey,
that's
have you guys-
borderline
and
silly.
metal shouldn't be in the same sentence.
Have you guys ever heard of shoegazer?
Oh yeah.
No.
Have not. Have not.
That's a band?
It's a genre.
Oh.
I didn't think
No.
that shoegaze was. I never. How do I put it? I didn't think it was a
Is that
description
kind of like
of the
foot
mute.
fetish or something?
No.
I know, that's what I was
Al
thinking.
Bundy
Is that
is-
is that a
It's less-
subgenre
They
of
play,
metal?
they play
It's
Fender.
less of a description of the type of music and more of the atmosphere.
Ah.
Imagine shoegaze.
example?
It's more
My
laid
Chemical
back.
Romance.
It's somebody playing while looking at their feet.
and
Yeah, I was
long
just gonna
hair.
say,
And
what
not
do they
hang-
all
That's
sit
what they
there
call
looking
it
at
and
their
they
now?
feet?
all play.
They're not engaged with the audience.
Or singers
They're
and that
just
who face the
immersed in
other
what
way.
they're
Who
doing.
was
No,
that
but
who
they
did
also,
that?
But they also play music that's like loud and it's like bomb and very.
Wasn't there a singer that he was like modest and he would turn his back to the crowd?
That would
Who
be
was
Jim
that?
Morrison.
Yeah, Jim Morrison.
He did that?
Yes, from the Doors.
A lot of
There was
singers have
somebody
social anxiety. If you listen to that Godsmack band, all that guy's lyrics are like, go away, keep away, stay away, get back. I'm like,
Leave
people
him
are
alone.
you know? I understand it. Just don't go near the dude.
Guess I don't want to put any of my lyrics under a magnifying glass either. 'Cause it's all like you said, you know, rainbows and you know,
Frolicking in
unicorns
meadows
stuff.
and yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's Dio. Dio was rainbows and dragons, and it was awesome. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
But you never heard Unicorn in the Dark, bro.
No.
You know what I'm saying? That's pushing the limits there, you know?
Think of the Hall of the Mountain King
It's
video.
like,
they
yeah.
had that dwarf in the castle.
Oh,
Though.
I know. I
Yeah,
love
but
that.
you did. But that's a
There's
dwarf.
stories about that midget.
That's not a unicorn, man. That's like,
Yeah,
No.
he's an elf.
you know, you say unicorn, I think of My Little Pony or something.
That's
you know?
exactly
I'm
what I was
John
thinking.
Oliva
I'm
has
like, that
some
has
stories
nothing to
about
do with
that
metal,
guy, Sir
you know?
John
My
whatever,
Little
or
Pony
Sir
death
whatever
metal
his
band.
name was.
My
Yeah.
Little Pony death metal.
You know,
What
maybe
about- what
what
about-
about a Minotaur? You know, something like that. If you're going to
Wait.
go mythical, let's.
What about if it's a unicorn that just murders people with its horn? Just
It's still a
runs
unicorn.
up and it just comes up and it's like metal and just slams its head right
Oh my
into.
god.
I think we're onto something here. This could be a new project.
I know, right?
Unicorn on
He'll be
paper.
doing that project by himself.
Heavy metal unicorn.
I know this girl that
Not
dressed
literally.
as what she called a deathy corn for Halloween, where she was dressed as a unicorn in all black,
No,
Man.
no.
blood on her, and
Yeah, but that's actually a Kieran.
well, she looked pretty
A
fine.
Kieran?
That's
A
all I got
Kieran.
to say.
What do you mean?
It's a black.
She was
Well,
looking
a
hot.
Kieran actually has wings, but it's a black. It's a
Oh,
black
okay,
unicorn.
Okay.
That's why he's a singer. He does words good.
He does words good.
My Little Pony.
Oh no.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
I just really know where to go with that one.
And on that note,
I know, right?
On that
Exactly.
note, yeah.
actually, we're running out of time here. We got to move on, folks. So, again, we just want to thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate your
Yeah.
time,
Thank you.
and thanks for coming down. It's been fun having you on the show. We really look forward to hearing your music when you get your
Exactly, too.
EP done there, and we'll definitely have you back in the studio and stuff. So, appreciate you guys, and everybody go out there, check them out, see them live when you get the chance. Again,
Jericho Siren.
Jericho Siren.
Jericho Siren. Very
That's
cool.
them.
Very
Oh
cool.
yeah,
Check
thanks
it
for
out.
having us,
Nice.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
being in here.
Absolutely.
So we're going to kick in to what we call In the Spotlight. This is where we do interviews with some big names in the industry. And we have people stand up in front of the cameras.
Did I just do that?
You just
Hey,
did
that's
that.
all right,
Live.
man.
My bad.
This is a live show without any tape delays, and you know what?
That's
what
how you
see
know
is
it's
what you
live.
get.
That's it.
Rich has left the
Whoa.
building for a
And I
moment.
mean, you know, with that said, guys, you know, sometimes we need to keep a leash on ourselves. I mean,
It's
you know,
hilarious.
watching the time, we're going a little bit, you know, a little
That's
bit
all right.
later than what we normally would be doing.
Great
here,
conversation.
but,
We're
I
good.
know.
So as you know, last week we had Rob DeLuca from Spread Eagle and UFO and Sebastian Bach. We had part one of our interview with him, which we did, Scott and I did with him a couple weeks ago down in Sarasota when he was playing with Sebastian Bach. And this week we have part two, so here you go, check it out.
So with Spread Eagle and now Sebastian Bach as well, you, in my opinion at least, have performed with probably two of the greatest metal singers out there by far. You know, Ray is always a monster vocalist, and of course Sebastian, everybody who knows Sebastian knows that. So how does that feel for you to be able to play with such accomplished and you know, obviously talented musicians?
Well, it's very great, you know, like you want people to notice what you're doing, and if you have singers on that incredible level, people come out, you know. There's already like 600-700 pre-sales today, you know, and
Yeah.
that's just pre-sales. So, you know, like you don't want to roll into a club and play for 20 people. If it happens, it
Right.
happens.
Yeah,
But
it's- right.
so
It happens.
if you're working with singers on that level, it's not likely that will happen. You
Yeah,
know?
right. So is there any particular musician out there that you have always dreamed of playing with that you would love to do?
Well, I would say Malcolm Young, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good one though, for sure. Who are
Another
your?
one would be Rick Wright, keyboard player from Pink Floyd, but that's not going to happen.
You're a big
Yeah,
Pink
that's
Floyd
awesome.
fan?
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
where does that come into play? I mean, now I know I think you were involved in UFO first, right?
No,
was it-
Sebastian first.
Okay, but I mean, after that, you started, because I want to talk about, the psychedelic band, but that wasn't the next one you were involved in,
Oh,
was it?
okay.
That
Of Earth.
wasn't the next one you were involved in.
Of Earth has been together for quite a while. I think we were together before I was playing with Sebastian, yeah.
Okay.
And before UFO.
Before UFO.
Yeah.
Before UFO.
Okay.
So I mean, but you're really into Pink Floyd. So I mean, what kind of influence did that have? I mean,
definitely on Of Earth, it was definitely a big influence. Pink Floyd, like you always want to dream of sounding like a band, and you end up not sounding anything like them, which is
Right.
which is probably the best thing.
Sure.
You know, the worst thing would be to sound like someone else because you're never as good as the original.
Clone, right?
Do you know
But,
what?
we would love to sound like Pink Floyd, but we sound nothing.
Do you know what's also cool though
We
is
do have organ, and ripping guitars and beautiful melodies,
Nice.
what's also cool though is you're singing.
Yes.
You're singing.
I sing,
That's cool.
I sing in Of Earth. I sing lead vocals and play bass.
Nice.
And some great musicians in the band. A guitar player named Paul Casanova, who's fantastic. A keyboard player named Rick Chirello. And Rick DeLuca, my cousin from Spread Eagle, has played drums for us.
Oh, cool.
Oh, so he's
Very
your
cool.
cousin.
He's your
Yeah,
cousin.
okay. Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice. I was wondering if he was your brother or your cousin.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Very cool. Very cool.
So how did all that progress into you being with UFO? That's a pretty great accomplishment as well.
Yeah, I mean, the band is still fantastic. The way that happened was I was playing with Sebastian, and we started touring with Guns N' Roses, and they kept bringing us out on tour, like over a period of like 5 years. They kept inviting us out on tour, not constantly. We would go home,
Right.
take breaks. They would take breaks, but we were with them for like 100 shows,
Nice.
and which was probably the experience of my lifetime. Like I probably learned more from that than anything.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the learning curve is incredible. In a few days, you're getting used to playing to that many people. It's amazing. So at the time, they had Ron Thal, Bumblefoot, on guitar, and he's friends with Vinnie Moore. And Vinnie told Ron they were just looking for a solid bass player who's like a cool dude, So Ron recommended me. I didn't have to audition or anything. I just showed up for a rehearsal one day before a tour, and we were off running.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Ron.
So you also did some work with.
He has a great new band called Sons of Apollo, so you should check it out. It's really
Absolutely, we'll check it out for sure. So I see you also did some work with Joan Jett and my personal favorite guitar player, George Lynch.
Yeah. Well, George was right before Sebastian. Sebastian was before UFO. My first show with Sebastian, as I was saying, is 13 years.
2 days.
In 2 days, it'll be 13 years to the day.
Nice.
And I was playing with George, and he said, we have a show in Poughkeepsie, New York. And I was like, cool. And then I got a call from Bass saying, we have a show in Poughkeepsie, New York. And I think you're already doing it with George Lynch. I'm like, yeah. He goes, you want to play in both bands? I was like, definitely, But George didn't want me to do that, so I ended up playing with Sebastian. So
that's how that came about then.
There you go.
That's pretty wild.
I had only been with George for a year or so before that.
Now, when you got involved in music, I mean, even before you went to Berkeley, I mean, all that, you were listening to music. So, I mean, you've had experience not only playing, but behind the scenes producing, right?
Well, I'm producing the new Spread Eagle record,
Very nice.
and UFO produced their last record, which we all were part of that. So yeah, me and all my friends were such rock and roll kids. We loved rock and roll so much since I was very young. So I was brought up on all that classic rock and early metal and classic pop like Beatles and Steely Dan and all that stuff, Elton John, all that really well recorded good stuff. You know? So it all creeps in, and I think producing, almost everyone has Pro Tools today, and they know how to record and use all the digital plugins, and that's important stuff. But I think the most important thing of producing is just understanding songs and how to bring out the best of a song or enhance a song, and that's just, you just have to know music to be good at that, and I think that just takes time.
Right, absolutely.
Just
So you played a lot of places though. I mean, you played in every state and stuff. I'm
just in the last few weeks.
Oh my goodness. So let me ask you this. I mean, you got a favorite place you like? I mean, what out of all this? I mean, what's a favorite place you like to play?
Well, I would say the craziest places are my favorites, just because
Okay.
the audiences are just wild. So you have to say Brazil. Let me see. There's a South American country on the West Coast. What is that? Where's Tom Araya from of Slayer?
Oh, my.
Peru?
No, it's near. Anyway, it'll come to me. I think the Movie Star Arena is there. But anyway, so Brazil, Quebec, Canada is crazy.
What do they do? I mean, why?
It's just they're just so into it. It's not like anything particular that anyone does in any of these places. It's just the level of intensity.
It's one of those shows where you can just say anything over the microphone and everybody goes crazy, or
Yeah, pretty much.
Very cool.
Also
Those are
Poland.
fun.
Also
great.
Poland. It really rocks.
Nice.
When I started going there, I didn't think that, and that was probably 10 years ago, or more maybe. But the last couple times I've gone there, I've been like, oh my God, this is crazy, you know?
Yeah.
So those are the places, and I'll think of that South American country. It'll come to me in a second.
I don't know if I should
Chile,
ask.
Santiago, Chile.
Oh, okay. Man, I
So-
don't know if I should ask this, but what's the worst place you played? Like, I mean,
Yeah, what's the worst experience?
I mean, I want
you've ever
to
had
hear.
on the
I
road?
want to hear like. I'm sure you probably had more than one. So
I'm not avoiding that question, but nothing comes
Okay.
to mind. But see, it takes a few seconds.
That's
Chile
all right.
came to me in a second.
Okay.
But, okay, so what was a bad experience for me? Probably being like a time where I was really sick or something. Like I remember one time with UFO, I had the flu so bad I could only get out of bed for a few days to do the show and then go right back to bed because just that hour and a half is basically all the energy I could get up. I was so depleted. And they were good sports about that, trying to, keep me as healthy as possible. Other than that, in Philly recently, in the last few years, I went to visit my girl, and I went back down on a bus, and I realized all my stuff had been stolen on the bus ride.
Oh, man.
So I was like dressed, like in sweatpants and stuff.
Yeah,
I
no.
ended up. She came down and brought me some stuff because I live in New York, and it's only 3 hours away or so. But that was a bad experience, I can't think of too much else though.
I mean, that's not a bad thing either, though. It's not bad.
So, Spread Eagle, you got something coming out this coming year, correct?
Coming year 2019, we have a record coming out on Frontiers, and it's really coming out great. The vocals are 95% done. The guitars are 95% done. The drums and bass are done. So basically, I'm out here. I'm still working on it while I'm out here. That's the beauty of Pro Tools.
Yeah, for sure.
But when I get back, a bunch of things have to be done. So I get back on November 21st, and I should be done it by the end of the year.
So
Nice.
when
That'd
do
be
you
great.
Have it out. When do you think it'll be out?
Basically, I'll submit it and get in their rotate, in their line,
Yeah.
in their queue,
Yeah.
So I'm not sure when that is, but I guess they'll let me know that, and that's fine. You need a few months to set up a record
Sure.
with press and all that,
Sure.
so I would think definitely not in the first quarter of the year, sometime after the first quarter of 2019.
Well, cool. We'll have to get you and Ray to come into the studio and actually do an in-studio thing. That'd be really nice to see both of you guys together. And I actually saw Ray. I think it was like 2 weeks before I saw you with his other band, and they were with Tesla on tour and stuff. And I'd just seen him, and I was like, "Wow, hey Ray!" I didn't even realize that was him at first, and because I was there a little late to miss him, but I saw him right after the show, and then I come in to see Sebastian Bach, and I see you. So what have you got going on, plans for the future with Sebastian Bach and also with UFO?
Well, things start with Sebastian. Next February, we go out on the Legends of Rock cruise,
Nice.
which will be cool. My friend plays drums for Roger Daltrey, and he'll be on the cruise, and some bands I really like Kansas, will be on it. So it just seems like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That goes to Bahamas or something.
That seems like it'd be a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, yeah. So that's in mid-February, and then UFO starts up on their 50th anniversary farewell tour. So
okay.
we start in UK on March 7th. which is my mom's birthday, and we do the UK for about 3 weeks. Then we do some festivals in the summer. I'm hearing rumors of that, and I'm also hearing rumors of a fall tour in the U.S.
Nice. That'd be real nice.
Yeah.
If you ever want to get some exposure for any of that, man, you know, coming on the show, we'll be glad to have you, man. So,
Yeah, it's going to be the last chance to see the band, and the band is still fantastic, so I strongly recommend.
yeah, I'll definitely have to catch that for sure. So, anything else that you particularly want to talk about? You said you have a website, right? A bass. Yeah, you are like probably one of the busiest musicians I think I've ever known.
Talk about
Well,
But that's awesome, man.
Well, when you're on the tour bus, there's not a lot. There's a lot of traveling. There's a lot of time on the bus. You know, the show's only an hour and a half long, so you know there's a lot of hours in the day. And what are you going to do? You're going to watch TV, or you're going to get drunk, or you know, like there's a lot of just time you can waste. But I figured, well, I might as well do something productive.
Good use, yeah.
So I built this. I'm really into vintage basses. You know, being a bass player and playing vintage basses on stage. I'm really into just everything about them. So I built this site with this German programmer named VintageBassWorld.com, and it's just an It's like a geeky information site for bassists
Right.
about gear. If you want to see if something is genuine and not a forgery, or just interested in when they changed this design or that, or what original case
Parts-
should look like.
parts
All
of
the
the
parts,
guitar,
all the parts
of
of
the
the bass. So
That's awesome.
it's
really cool.
it's Fender, Gibson, Rickenbacker, Music Man, Ampeg, and it starts with the 1951 precision bass, and it goes from 51 to 1983, and it's just dozens of different models, hundreds of pages, thousands of pictures, and it's all vetted information. So it's basically like a book. It's an encyclopedia of vintage basses and their stock parts. And
Beautiful.
it's the largest vintage instrument site in the world.
Give us that
Fantastic.
website again so we can.
It's VintageBassWorld.com.
There you go.
Awesome, man.
VintageBassWorld.com. Bass players got to check that out.
So, what's your favorite bass?
My particular favorite bass is my 1966 Fender Precision.
That's the one you're playing right now.
It's the one I
That's
play
you're
with
playing right now.
Sebastian and Spread Eagle. I used it on the last 2 UFO records. I use it for almost all my recordings. It's not valuable. It's been bastardized and routed, not by me, but by the previous owners. But it just sounds better. I have ones that are much older that are worth more money. It just sounds great. So I would have to say that's my favorite bass.
Nice. Any more?
And it's just so comfortable. You know, I've played it since Spread Eagle, since the old days.
Yeah. Oh, that was the bass you were playing way back then.
Yeah. Well, at first I had a black one. It's the one right after that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Nice. Very nice, man. Any more questions, Scott?
Well, I'm just excited. It's going to be a good show. Going to be a good show.
Glad you guys are here.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on the show. I mean, like Todd was saying, if you guys want to come on and
We will.
do a little
We
jamming,
will.
very cool,
We
awesome, very
Well,
nice.
before the record comes out, we'll come down and promote it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that'd be
sounds
nice.
like a great
That'd be
idea.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea. Very
Thanks,
good, Rob.
guys.
Awesome.
Is Ray still
Ray's
up in
amazing.
Jacksonville, right? Or up in that area?
He goes between Brooklyn and South Florida.
Okay, South Florida.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, Rob, thank you very much for
Appreciate
being on the show. It's called The Sound Effect, and make sure you tune in for more. And this is Rob DeLuca from Spread Eagle, UFO, and Sebastian Bach. Well, there you go. That's our interview with Rob DeLuca from Spread Eagle, UFO, and Sebastian Bach. Rob's such a great guy. Thank you so much, Rob, for being a part of the show. We appreciate you being our very first interview that we ever had, and you're just awesome. We look forward to everything that you're doing that's coming out new, and we look forward to having Spread Eagle here in the studio coming
That's
up
gonna
in
be awesome.
2019. That's going to be really, really killer. And a couple comments here, and we'll close some things out with this show. So.
Absolutely. Just wanted to say hello out to everybody that's watching. I got family. I got my Aunt Kathy watching. Like to say hello. Got my wife Amanda watching. Obviously, love you, support, appreciate your support. Another thing worth
Hey, Bernadette.
mentioning, and Bernadette, boy, there's just too many people
And
to name.
Cheryl.
And Cheryl, what's really cool is our interview next week. Next week.
Dr. Killdrums.
Dr. Killdrums. We got Mr.
Steve Wackles.
Absolutely.
Not
Scott
waffles.
likes to call him waffles, but it's not
You know,
waffles. It is Wackles.
If you're gonna spin any name weird, you can just count on me. I'm gonna be the guy to do it.
That's for sure.
Anything weird, retarded, that's gonna be me.
We'd
But,
like to thank our guests for tonight, Jericho Siren. Those guys are great.
Yeah, that was
we really
awesome.
Appreciate them being a
We had
part
a
of
good
the show.
time.
Had a good show with them tonight. Thank you to Bake More Pies and for having us, letting us do the studio here and,
Yes.
and do our show out of this studio. If you're looking to do your own show, if you're looking to get any video production done, Bake More Pies is a fantastic facility. They are also a marketing company that can help you market your company on the internet. And
Top-notch professional.
top-notch professional people, just great people. So contact them at bakemorepies.com. Thank you to everybody who's watching us and tuning in throughout the week as well to watch the replay. If you didn't catch us live, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you who interacted with us throughout the show, and we'll be getting better at stuff like that as we go along.
Work
We're
in
just
progress.
started. This is our second show. And as we said, next week, Steve Doc Wackles of Sabotage and Reverence will be our special guest interview on the road with that one as well. And that entire show we are going to dedicate to Chris Oliva. We're also going to talk about Paul O'Neill, and we're going to be talking about Sabotage and Trans-Siberian Orchestra because they are coming
You
into
don't
town
want to miss that.
on their 20th anniversary. You definitely don't want to miss that. We don't know exactly who's going to be in the studio with us yet at this time, but we'll let you know through our Facebook page and everything. So check us out. Thanks again for watching. We appreciate you. Have a fantastic night. We'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.